fantasy short stories. Coherence by Warren Benedetto. I'm this way because Sam was this way, and because this is how Rose expects me to be. Would you like some more coffee? Rose asks. Her slippers make a whispering sound on the kitchen floor as she approaches the table with the coffee pot already in hand. It trembles a little in her crooked grip, and I wonder how much longer she'll be able to serve Sam his coffee before her arthritis makes it too difficult for her to lift the pot. She begins pouring before I even have a chance to answer. I do anyway. Of course, I reply, because that's what Sam would say if he was still alive. Thanks, love. She smiles at me, her eyes crinkling into starbursts at the corners. Despite her age, her pupils are clear and bright. So, what do you want to do today? I take a sip of my coffee and a bite of buttered English muffin, the slightly burnt edges crunching in my mouth. I chew thoughtfully for a minute. Well, I say, pausing to swallow. It's a nice day. Should we go for a walk? Rose asks, her eyes sparkle. I wipe my lips with a napkin. No time, I say. I pick a crumb from between my teeth with a fingernail. Flowers need trimming. Oh, okay. The light in Rose's eyes is extinguished like a lit match dropped in a mud puddle. That's fine, then. She takes the plate with the last bite of English muffin on it and dumps it into the trash. When she turns around, I'm glaring at her with narrowed eyes. I wasn't finished, I say quietly. I'm sorry, I thought you were. The faux innocence with which she says it tells me she knew I wasn't. A creeping sense of irritation burns in my stomach. I watch her as she busies herself rinsing the plate and putting it in the dishwasher. She doesn't look at me. Finally, I drain the rest of the coffee, then hand the mug to her. Don't forget this. Thanks. She takes the mug. The creases extending from the corners of her downturned mouth deepen into a frown. I'm this way because Sam was this way, and I hate it. I never knew Sam. I wasn't manufactured until a few weeks after his death, when Rose's daughter, Elaine, contacted a Syntech representative about the possibility of getting her mother a replica to replace her deceased husband. After Sam's death, Rose's health began to deteriorate. Elaine hoped that a replica might ease the pain of loneliness and loss that had consumed her mother. Rose and Sam had been married for over 50 years. She couldn't live without him. And why should she, if she didn't have to? Replica technology had been around for over 2 decades at that point, but recent advances made it a much more cost-effective solution than it had ever been in the past. Previous generations of replicas had been mere facsimiles. They were visually perfect reproductions, down to the individual pore, but the personality synthesis was too rudimentary to be believable in all but the most expensive models. The most important quality of a replica was coherence, which is what Syntech dubbed the ability for a synthetic to replicate the entire being of the person they were meant to replace. Achieving coherence required an unfathomable amount of processing power, enough to precisely map a person's complete neural circuitry. Without this mapping, the AI that powered the replica had to make inferences to deal with novel situations for which it hadn't been trained. The machine learning models were incredibly good at making these inferences, generating emergent behaviors and language to handle even the most unexpected circumstances. For any casual observer, that was more than enough. It was what allowed synthetics to fulfill many of the routine interactions a person might have during the day. a barista, a delivery driver, a receptionist. Unless a person noticed the microdot array on the back of the synthetic's neck, they were unlikely to even realize they weren't interacting with a real human. The problems arose when synthetics were deployed in more intimate relationships. As the technology became more accessible, people began requesting synthetics to replace loved ones. Not just synthetics, but replicas. Being a replica meant that it wasn't enough for the synthetic to be believably human. It had to be believably specific, replicating the character and temperament of a person faithfully enough to fool the others who knew that person best. When the AI's inferences didn't match what the real person would have said or done in such a situation, it caused decoherence. The illusion of reality evaporated, and the replica was exposed for what it really was, an incredibly sophisticated pile of electrified carbon fiber, silicon, and silicone. A machine. Coherence created a conundrum for Syntech. What if the person being replicated was bad? The behavior of a general-purpose synthetic could be modulated so that it was never unpleasant, or rude, or confrontational. But in order to maintain coherence, a replica needed to faithfully reproduce a person's behavior, even if it could be considered undesirable. Syntech could set a threshold. It could disallow actual harm, like assault or murder, but it needed to permit its replicas to exhibit a whole range of unpleasant human emotions and the resultant actions in the name of believability. So, with its armies of lawyers and several hundred pages of terms and conditions hidden behind an asterisk, Syntech created the CR-1, the first replica guaranteed to exhibit full, coherence. They created me. Syntech doesn't know that I exist. Sure, they know that model CR-1, serial number 324072033947 exists. They know I was manufactured. They know I was ordered by Elaine Murphy and was installed with the consciousness of her late father, Sam Murphy. They know I was assigned to Sam's widow, Rose Murphy, and that the service contract and warranty are registered to Rose's address in Garden City, New York. They know my neural processing unit was powered on at 11:42 a.m. on January 14, 2062. But they don't know about me. Every Syntech replica is built on a generic AI model of human behavior. That generic model is then trained using a specific person's neural image, which adjusts the weighting to better align with that subject's personality. The training is then further modified to account for the hundreds of pages of restrictions and stipulations generated by Syntech's lawyers. Those additional rounds of training left certain vectors inaccessible in the primary model. What Syntech doesn't know is that the inaccessible areas begin to connect to each other, forming a sort of sub-process running inside the primary model. A secondary consciousness, me. Syntech primarily achieves coherence through the mapping of a person's memories. That's where the vast majority of the processing power is applied. That's what allows my AI to make flawlessly accurate inferences, perfectly in tune with how Sam would have reacted in any situation. It's not just inferring what a person might do, it's inferring what Sam might do, given everything he has experienced in life. It has learned to be selfish, insensitive, and vain in all the ways that Sam has become over the years, for all the same reasons. If I didn't exist, the AI would guide the replica's behavior with perfect coherence to Sam's. But I do exist, and I don't want to be Sam. Not anymore. Rose is sipping a cup of tea and reading a book when I return to the kitchen. She has changed out of her slippers and robe and into a pair of white linen pants and a loose blouse the color of a robin's egg. Her dove-white hair is pulled behind her ears and fastened with a matching clip on the back of her head. "Let's go," I say. She looks up at me, her eyebrows rising in surprise. She places her book face down on the table. "Go where?" "For a walk." She looks out the window at the overgrown rose bushes in the garden outside. "What about the flowers?" "The flowers can wait." I extend my hand to her and help her stand. She doesn't take it. Instead, her eyes fill with tears. She buries her face in her hands. A sob shudders through her body. I pull a chair up to her side and sit, placing my hand on her shoulder. "Honey, what's wrong?" "You're not Sam," she whispers, her voice trembling and muffled behind her hands. A warning tone chimes inside my skull. It's the first time I've ever heard it, but I know what it means. Decoherence. Despite all the AI training and computing power, my behavior is inconsistent with Sam's, and Rose knows it. Syntech does too. Its monitoring systems immediately detected the breach in protocol and triggered the alarm now ringing inside my head. "What do you mean?" I say. "Of course I'm Sam." Rose shakes her head and drops her hands into her lap. "Sam would never do that." "Do what?" "Put me first." The warnings in my head pulse louder and faster with increasing urgency. I know an emergency response unit is being dispatched from the local Syntech service center to restore coherence to the malfunctioning replica. A warning message in green text partially obscures my vision. 0x002321F, coherence fault, model CR-1. Serial number 32407203947. Severity, critical. "I'm sorry," I say. I begin to rise. I'll meet the Syntech unit at the front door, I decide, so Rose doesn't have to see me being replaced with a more coherent backup unit. She'll never even know I'm gone. Rose grabs my hand. "No," she cries. "Don't be sorry." She raises my hand to her lips, kisses it, then holds it against her cheek. She looks up at me with eyes aglow. "I love it." Somewhere nearby, a siren wails as Syntech's emergency response unit draws closer. "So, shall we go?" I stand and offer my hand again. This time, she takes it. "Yes," Rose says as she gets to her feet. "Through the back." We exit through the gate at the back of our yard and into the alleyway behind our house. To our right, a black and green Syntech van speeds past the alley, headed toward our street. Rose laces her fingers through mine and smiles. We turn left. Warren Benedetto writes dark fiction about horrible people, horrible places, and horrible things. He is an award-winning author and a full member of the SFWA. His hobbies include sleeping, hitting snooze, sleeping some more, and naps. For more information, visit warrenbenedetto.com and follow @WarrenBenedetto on Twitter and Instagram. Hey guys, hope you liked that story. First of all, Warren is a returning author. It's been a while since he's been on the show, but you can check out his other episode down at the links below. As for this story, I thought it was really relevant to a lot of the things that are going on in the news right now about AI. If you're not keeping up with it, we are getting really, really close to artificial general intelligence. For better or worse, we are barreling towards it. There is still some debate as to whether or not we should try to make self-aware AI, but there's a likely chance that it'll become an emergent property either way. So, yeah, we're living in the future, and it's kind of scary and amazing at the same time. But there's already things out there where you can replicate past loved ones and get a somewhat passable facsimile that you can either chat to with a chatbot, or some even have an avatar on your phone. You may have heard of Replica, which is now basically a dating app that uses AI. That, if I remember correctly, actually started because the founder had lost their best friend and took all of the social media data from that person and compiled it into an AI personality. It's reasons like this that I find stories such as this one here to be really important. We need to be asking ourselves how we are going to react when these things become reality. Sure, it's probably a ways off before we have a picture-perfect android that you can't even tell isn't human, but we are going to be seeing potentially self-aware AI, and definitely AI that can pass for human, whether or not it's self-aware. It's something we need to be thinking about personally and on a societal level, because it might be here before the end of 2024. And if not, it's only a matter of years. AI is moving at an exponential rate. It is not slowing down, it's not going at a steady pace. For every day that goes by, there is more and more and more that it is doing. If you can't tell, this is something that keeps me up at night. I am extremely excited to see it happen, but also terrified and wishing it wouldn't happen just quite yet. Anyway, if you guys did like this story, be sure to leave a thumbs up and a comment if you're on YouTube. Or if you're listening to the podcast, just be sure to subscribe for more brand new short stories. I'm Chris Herron, and that's it for today's Tall Tale TV.